Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer. You know, I always wanted to be a Gregorian monk, but I never had the chance. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Europa, Universalis from Aegir Games. We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review. In Europa Universalis from Aegir Games, players take on the roles of various European powers during the High Middle Ages and the Renaissance as they compete for power. Now, the game board is a map of Europe. You have the various cities and towns. You have various kind of geographical and political boundaries throughout the board. And players are going to get that. They're also going to get their own player board. There's also going to be several other kind of sideboards throughout the game. Now, this is a massive, epic game, and there are a lot of really good kind of player videos out there and how to learn videos out there. I'm just going to tell you kind of the bare bones about this game and then give you my thoughts. Now, on a player's personal player board, you're going to have various spots for kind of your little tokens, your little cylinders there. And you're going to cover up most of these spaces. But whatever is left, that is to say what you put on the board, that kind of illustrates kind of your tax income. You're also going to have various cards for your armies to show exactly how many armies you have on the board and kind of what the strength of those armies are. On the board, those armies are represented by the various minis. Now, there are different scenarios. You're going to go ahead and actually select which scenario you want to play, and this could be beginning at a various time. But you select the scenario you want to play. You get cards that kind of tell you what the setup's going to be for your particular faction at that time. And then you go ahead and you place your kind of cities and your other cylinders on the board and any other information it tells you to do. Now, the very first thing is the draw cards phase. You're going to put out 3 event cards, visible to everyone. Then you're also going to draw action cards. You've got political action cards, administrative action cards, military action cards. You're going to pay to keep those, I think, 2 ducats each, if I recall correctly. You can also select mission cards, or you can replace mission cards, and they have the number of prestige that they can bring you if you fulfill those cards. Now, next you have an action phase. Now, during an action phase, there are a lot of different actions. You can take major actions, you can take minor actions, and you can take actions associated with your various cards. Now, you're going to be taking turns going around and around, and at one point, you have to take one of the event cards. Now, the event cards may do fun and interesting and funky things on the board. You have to go ahead and take one of those event cards before you can move forward. Now, there's also ideas. You can research ideas. This is kind of like your tech track. There's prestige associated with it. You can go ahead and claim those cards and get whatever bonuses come with that. You can also change the state religion. You can change national focus. There's some various things here. You can also take or repay loans at this time. You can actually, some of your cards actually have advisors at the bottom. You can actually pay to place them under your player board in the appropriate spot to have permanent advisors there that will give you bonuses. You can also replenish manpower for your armies and a few other things as well. Now, you can also take the card actions, and the cards will have specific actions that you can take. One of the things you can do is you can kind of increase administrative stability. Now, how your state, how kind of stable it is something you have to work at. And if you can increase in making it more stable, you get more rewards. If it becomes less and less stable, then you can face some severe penalties. You can also try to convert areas to religion. You can try to colonize other nations as well.
For diplomatic actions, you can try to influence other areas. You can place cubes on the board to influence other areas. You can try to forge alliances with other states on the board. You can fabricate claims. Essentially, you're trying to create a casus belli to go to war with another nation. And then, of course, you can also trade. Now, if you do trade, you pick a number of trade cards, you select one that you want to do, and that trade, essentially, you have to make sure that you kind of have a line of control from your area, from the territory listed in the card, to another area that you can then form a trading bond with. You also have merchants that go out there, and they can use you can use them to go through as well. Now, for military actions, you can declare war, you can move your units, you can use them to suppress rebellions or unrest or those sorts of things. You can also recruit more units for your armies as well at that time. Now, next you have kind of an upkeep phase. During the upkeep phase, essentially everything costs money. Your armies cost money, and you're just spending a lot of money. So you got to make sure that you're taking in more than you are spending. If not, you have to eliminate those excess units that you can't afford to pay for. They're gone, and so you're trying to essentially balance the books there. Also, you're going to collect monarch power. Now, monarch power are the different cubes in your administrative, diplomatic, and military areas. You kind of figure out how many of those you're going to get that you can use to spend, because you're actually going to need those to take some of those actions. And then you will score prestige. Now, again, prestige is kind of your victory points. You're going to go ahead and see where you've gained prestige that term, what offices you hold. For instance, you have like the curia, which is kind of the church. If you hold special places there, you can get more prestige. But there's other ways you can gain prestige. You add that all up and add that to your score. Finally, you're going to do a cleanup phase. You're going to remove a lot of tokens and stuff on the board you'd put out there. You're going to discard down to 5 cards. And then you're going to check for end of age, because the game takes place over the course of several ages. Up to 4 ages, but depending on scenario, not necessarily that many. But you're going to go ahead and you're going to do kind of an end of age check, and you're going to look at everything there and see what happens at the end of a specific age. Now, as I say, at times you'll have combat, which is dice combat, but there are many steps in order to go through that. There's a lot of these diplomatic procedures, and there's a lot of different administrative things that happen in the game. So players are going around and around. They are taking these various actions. They are collecting cards. They are playing cards. They are trying to gain money. They're trying to gain prestige. They're trying to pay for their costs. They're doing all of these things in order to advance, ultimately, their prestige track and any other ways to get power that way. Now, depending on what scenario is being played, the player who first manages to fulfill those objectives wins. Europa, Universalis, the price of power. Okay, that was like 2% of this game, okay? I just breezed over some stuff here. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb to say that from a rules standpoint, this is definitely one of the heavier games in this genre that I have played. It is massive. Now, again, I just played a 2-player game. All right, I've just played a 2-player game of this. I haven't delved deeper into it. And this was a game too that, as we're setting it up, it probably took us at least, because I'd read through the rules before, but it probably took us at least 2 hours by the time we started setting up to the time we actually got around to taking our first turn, because there's just so much you got to internalize here. And you have player aids, and sometimes they're not as helpful as I'd like them to be. They say the actions you can take, but they don't really explain them. They point you in the direction of the rule book, but sometimes even the rule book is not the best at explaining everything. So it's not even that it's a bad rule book. I wouldn't say it's a great rule book, but it's just that it's so dense and there is so much going on here. It's difficult sometimes to say, well, I want to do this, but then how does it affect this and what happens here? And it's kind of difficult to make those connections because there's just so much going on here. The game is impressive to look at. The game is just beautiful. It's really a beautiful game. Beautiful components, mountains of cards. Production-wise, this knocks it out of the park. But gameplay is, like I say, this is a game that as we were playing it, we would stop just about every turn to really dive into the rule book. And some things were not as clear as we wanted them to be, and it wasn't intuitive as much as we would like. And as I understand, this is based on a video game I've not played. And I kind of wonder if in their desire to chase getting that same experience from the video game, maybe they made it a little too rules heavy. Because in a video game, obviously, can manage some of these things that a tabletop game cannot. And there gets to be a point where when you do all that bookkeeping and that upkeep, some of that I don't mind in a game. Some of that's fun in some games, like Space Empires 4X, for instance. But there does come a point where there's so much of it that it's like doing taxes, right? It's in this case literally, but it's not as fun as it could be when you get bogged down into some of that. There's just so much here. It's kind of a sandbox. It's very immersive. And my feeling is this. I think if you are someone who really likes this genre of game and you are willing to put the time and effort into learning this game, I think it will be amazing for you. I think you will love it. I think you will find what you want to find here. Now, for someone like me who I play a lot of different games and I don't have a lot of time to devote to just one game, this game, it's frankly not for me. There's too much going on here. It is too heavy for what I enjoy. Now, if somebody I knew who understood this game in and out said, "Hey, do you want to play it?" I'd probably be willing to, because if they know it, then they can teach as we go, and we're not looking at the rule books the whole time. But as it is, I can't see myself getting this to the table again. I'll probably end up donating this one or giving it to a friend. Just because I just realistically don't think I have the time to learn the ins and outs of this game as much as I would like to. So you can take that for what it is, and perhaps you can look at this as more of an impressions video than a full review. But that's kind of the way I feel about it. I think this is a game, like I say, if you want to take the time to learn it, I think there's potentially here you will love it. But, you know, if you're somebody who likes games, if you like to jump into a game and play it and just have fun with it without getting bogged down in the rules, this isn't for you. There's no real kind of quick start of any significance here. There's no... I mean, a lighter scenario is still pretty intense from everything I've read through. So recommendation for the discriminating gamer is I'm going to give it a try it before you buy it. But it's one of those try it before you buy it's where I'm saying, again, I would recommend it to someone who's looking for a big, epic game they want to dive into that you can see yourself really chewing on for months and years. For the more casual gamer like myself, again, try it before you buy it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history, fun things like that. I'm currently uploading my World War II lectures on that channel, so please, that would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe. Please leave a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek, and if you really like the channel, ladies and gentlemen, I'd humbly ask you to leave us a tip with the super thanks button here on the YouTube screen. Ladies and gentlemen, a dog and a sheep are having a conversation, and the dog says, "What do you mean I'm too controlling?" And the sheep says, "You heard me." Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. Hey, I'm just sitting here at my piano, and I wrote a little song for you guys. I'm not going to sing it because it's not very good.